Good afternoon and welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of Monday, October the 7th. Please be advised a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of chambers by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a short moment of silent meditation, and remain standing if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda. Under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item must first register and sign in at the table located at the back door. The council shall require any member of the public addressing the council to identify themselves, the name of an organization represented by such person, and their address, unless the address requirement has been waived for security of the individual. Each speaker should state whether they are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Anyone wishing to speak on an agenda item should come forward after the clerk reads the item and the applicant has presented. After public comments, the applicant may make one short rebuttal. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on an issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. We ask that all speakers strive for civility and allow the business of council to proceed unimpeded. Madam Clerk, can we have the first item before we get into the business?
A first item of today's agenda of Monday, October 7th, 2024 is a reminder that due to the Indigenous Peoples and Columbus Day holiday, City Council will not meet on Monday, October 14th of 2024. Next would be our My City Academy acknowledgement.
Good afternoon, Ms. Beltran.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Francisca. For some of you who don't know me, I work with the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights. And currently we have a group of individuals who are going through My City Academy. Pardon me. Some of you might not know, but My City Academy is a program that was started about almost 4 years ago with the idea to bring our refugee and immigrant community together and learn more about city government, county government, and in a way to get themselves better installed in our community, and also how can they be a part of what is currently commissions and boards. And so as of today, we have 7 individuals who are participants for My City Academy. This is our 6th cohort, and this is the first cohort that is solely on the city. It used to be a grant funded, and now it's completely through the city in collaboration with Appleseed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
I would also, if you don't mind, have Krista Yoakum, actually County Commissioner Krista Yoakum, come up and say a few words.
Please. Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Hello, friends. Commissioner Krista Yoakum, for the record. And even before I was a county commissioner, I think many of you know how important it was to me that everyone be able to access their local government, meet their local elected officials, express their opinions where they need to be expressed, and form those relationships. And I'm really pleased and proud of this group. This week, many of them are preparing to vote this November. They're planning their future. A couple have asked about how they run for office, and that just excites me, to no end, to have them involved. And thank you for acknowledging them, and thank you really for being supportive of this program and keeping it ongoing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I just want to add my words of welcome to the students in the My City Academy, and I look forward to spending some time with you in a couple of weeks. Since the program began, I have been a happy participant in this program as well, and I think it's a wonderful way to introduce newcomers to Lincoln to what Lincoln is all about, at least when it comes to civic Lincoln. So thank you so much for your interest in our community.
Give them a round of applause.
All right. Madam Clerk.
Next on our agenda is our consent agenda, sections 1, sections 2, and 3.
All right. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on an item on consent, either sections 1, 2, or 3? Anyone here to speak on an item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we may proceed to the vote.
We can now vote on these items. We have items 2A through 2C introduced by Shob.
So moved. Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Seeing none, please.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Shob,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Okay.
Moving on to liquor resolutions.
I'll call items 4A and 4B together. Item 4A and B is application of 1033 Brandy's LLC, doing business as Hampton Inn for a Class C liquor license located at 1033 O Street, and the related manager application of Michael Works.
Is anyone here to speak on this item? This would be liquor application 454. It's Hampton Inn and Michael Works manager. Is anyone here to speak on this item? All right. Seeing none, we can proceed.
I'll call item 4C, application of Warhorse Gaming Lincoln LLC, doing business as Warhorse Casino Lincoln for an addition of an indoor area to the north measuring approximately 172 feet by 158 feet, and an addition of an indoor area to the south measuring approximately 79 feet by 57 feet at 7055 South First Street.
All right. Is it anyone here to speak on this item? The additional space at the Warhorse Casino? I'm here, just asking for approval. Would you please come forward?
I am Mary Fennell with Warhorse Casino, food and beverage manager. Carry the current liquor license there.
Current address?
7555 South First,
Okay.
Denton Road.
All right. Thank you very much. Can you tell us a little something about your application?
What we're doing is we have an expansion. We have a horseman's area that's expanding to the one end closer to the track. And we also have an extra gaming area that we've added. It includes doubling the casino floor space.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions for the applicant? Councilman Duden.
When is it open?
Looking at hopefully November 5th, the additions.
It's pretty tight in there right now.
It
seems
is
like.
tight in there.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this application, either in favor or in opposition? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this item? All right, seeing none.
Madam Chair, seeing no one else coming forward to talk about these items, I'd like to make a motion that we approve items 4A through 4C.
Second.
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Shob,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move ahead to public hearing resolutions.
I'll call item 5A, approving the selection of a contractor pursuant to the bids to be open on October 3rd, 2024, and authorizing the execution of the construction contract between the City of Lincoln and the Nebraska Department of Transportation for the use of Federal Transportation Program funds for design and construction engineering services for the 56th Street from Spruce Street to Van Dorn Street rehab project.
Good afternoon, Director Elliott.
Good afternoon, Elizabeth Elliott, Director of Transportation Utilities, 555 South 10th Street. This, thankfully, is for 56th Street and the construction phase. The bids, I was just trying to see if we knew who it was awarded to. I don't have that information, but this is to have construction from Van Dorn to Spruce on 56th. We'll start next spring. We're very excited. But this is a standard contract that we have using federal funds through the Nebraska Department of Transportation. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Councilman Duden.
How many blocks is this?
This one has a pull up on our project page for this. It's basically just south of Pioneers is Spruce up to Van Dorn. So it's a good distance on 56th, doing very much needed repairs on that area.
Does this include the roundabout that's been talked about for 56 in Calvert then?
This one, I'm just looking, sorry. I don't believe so, but I would have to double check on that.
Seems like we'd be doubling a lot of expense if we're.
I
gonna
don't
tear it
believe
up.
this one includes that roundabout as I look at the project page.
Wouldn't that be kind of counterproductive to
Oh,
fix
hold
it
on.
up and then tear it up?
I apologize, sorry, as I'm continuing to look. It does have the improvements at Calvert intersection.
Okay, very good.
Yes, so it should have everything completed at
Everything.
once.
Very good. Thank you.
No, I apologize, I needed to dig a little deeper.
Been like that the whole time?
Any other comments? But then I'll ask Director Elliott, I think you said, right as you were introducing this topic, that we don't know the name of the contractor. I know it closed on the 3rd, and I was sort of hoping that we would know who was selected.
I know I was, and I just sent a message, and unfortunately, the project manager of this is out today,
Okay.
and so I don't have that information, but I will make sure to get that to you. Potentially yet today, I've reached out to the purchasing department to see if they could get that to me as well. So I hopefully will be able to get that information to you yet today or tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, it won't stand in
So-
the way of my support. It's a good project to be moving forward.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Required a lot of neighbors.
It will be so nice to have this part of the road done, and it's a federal aid project, which is why it's taken a little longer than our other Lincoln on the Move projects. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this item, either in support or in opposition?
My name is Anastasia Fitter. I'm going to waive my address. I suppose that perhaps what I would like to see is, since there has been no company contracted, however you want to say that, since there has been no company contracted yet, I would urge the city of Lincoln to do so in finding one that does not give money to Israel and is not part of a Zionist entity, because it is now a year since the ramping up of this genocide, and we know that there has been nothing done by the Lincoln City Council to do anything about it. Right, so we know that General Dynamics is on Industrial Avenue in Superior, and we know that they make MK-84 2,000-pound bombs that have been dropped on tents and children and the disabled and the elderly, as well as the innocent men and women who are also there. So perhaps my recommendation would be to go forth and find a company that is not tied to the war machine in order to build our streets. It would be a way for you guys to do literally something. Just make sure that whoever it is that you're getting to build our streets aren't also trying to tear down streets in Gaza or the West Bank or Lebanon or Syria for that matter, because that's also where our bombs go. The bombs that are made at General Dynamics here in Lincoln, Nebraska on Superior and Industrial Avenue. Why don't we make sure that when we build our streets that we're not also supporting companies that destroy streets and hospitals and schools, right? Like, how about we make sure that when we contract out, we're doing it to like the good people to allegedly, act as what we want Lincolnites to act like, right? We want Lincolnites to be like part of this grand picture, right, of peace and prosperity, but the reality is that there's a lot who aren't, and it is literally your job to go forward and cause less harm. So since you have been completely unwilling to get rid of General Dynamics on Industrial Avenue and Superior Street, we're here yet again asking you to do literally anything, literally something to divest from the horrors that Lincoln, Nebraska is causing in Gaza. Because the manufacturing of MK-84 bombs, these 2,000-pound bombs that Lincoln has built and that has gone to Gaza to blow up children, to blow up entire neighborhoods. Like this little stretch of land that we're trying to fix on 56th Street, imagine that, except it's Gaza and it's bombed and it doesn't exist anymore because this little place called Lincoln, Nebraska was too busy building bombs to go and wreck your streets. So perhaps maybe we can take this in mind and move forward trying to understand that there are ways that we can lessen the harm. There are ways that we can, tell good people that they're doing good jobs by giving them the contracts, people who are, pro-queer, pro-Palestine, instead of people that are like pro-hate and pro-genocide. Because it seems that the Lincoln City Council has been incredibly pro-genocide this entire time, not willing to say anything, not willing to call out people like, Pete Ricketts or Mike Flood or your own mayor, who's also done nothing to quell the genocide in Gaza. So perhaps what we should do is understand our role and how we are the ones that are perpetuating harm, and maybe we don't allow people who perpetuate that harm to come into our cities and to build our streets, right? Because as a person who lives in Lincoln, has lived in Lincoln for a long time, especially someone who uses the bus and bikes around a lot, I know how absolute garbage 56th Street can be, right? It is rough and tumble over there. So maybe we should try to understand that we need to find good people to build these streets, and not people who are associated with those who would like to destroy streets and destroy neighborhoods, right? Why do we want to continue to be this place that allows General Dynamics to build these bombs and drop them on innocent people while we're, maybe we don't find Ball Mason Jar, right? They make mason jars, but they also are a weapons manufacturer. So maybe we make sure those little connections aren't there when we dole out contracts to the city, right? I would appreciate that as a voting Lincolnite, as a member of this community. I would like to see our city council finally get off their rear and do something that is objectively good and not just some, window dressing on a city that endorses genocide and that also doesn't give their own citizens a fair shake, because you are forcing us to be complicit in this genocide. When we allow General Dynamics to be a weapons manufacturer, everyone becomes complicit, especially the leadership.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item? Seeing none. Madam Clerk.
I'll call item 5B, approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln and the City of Lincoln Lancaster County Railroad Transportation Safety District for the construction, repair, maintenance, removal, and/or replacement of railroad crossings and adjacent pedestrian sidewalks.
Madam Chairman, members of the council, Roger Feigert representing the RTSD. This is a continuation and an evolving of a long-standing practice that the RTSD has had to provide support, financial support to both the city and county for project activity in and around railroad crossings. In the beginning, for each project, we did a separate interlocal agreement between the RTSD and the city. That then evolved into a master agreement, annual agreement several years ago. And as that agreement was expiring this year, the city suggested and the RTSD agreed with making that, instead of an annual agreement, a 5-year agreement, subject annually to the $250,000. But the RTSD did approve this interlocal agreement at its September 10th meeting, and I'm just here to let you know the RTSD wants to continue that relationship and help financially with the city, and I would answer any questions you might have.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Does any counselor have a question? Okay. And very clear. Thank you. Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak on this item, either in support or in opposition to the interlocal agreement with the RTSD?
Hello again, my name is Anastasia Fenner. I'm going to waive my address. I hope that let it be known that I am obviously a great proponent of safety, right? I want our railroads to be exceptionally safe. I know that there has been many train derailments, right, across the country, leading to horrible chemical exposure for 3 states, right? Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, I think. But I also care about the safety involved and what's going on here in Lincoln. And so yet again, I want to reiterate that we need to make sure that when we're going forward with our safety, that we need to do so with companies and contractors that are here for safety of everyone. Because what does it say about Lincoln when we're like trying to make sure that our transportation is safe, but then Lincoln, you know, General Dynamics creates these 2,000-pound bombs that go and bomb other countries' sovereign, you know, transportation systems. Like, I understand the importance of making sure that Lincoln is safe because, like, I myself am a Lincolnite, and we need to then, like, expand our culture of safety and understanding and, you know, push that into, like, all of the ways that Lincoln deals with, you know, the way that they're interconnected in the world. Meaning that, like, in part of this, we need to understand, like, when we give money to companies like General Dynamics, we don't have to do that because I understand that there is a private-public partnership, right, of, you know, young folks, people that, like, want to be in these, like, different trades. And so instead of funneling them into General Dynamics, where, you know, they make bombs that kill children, that kill disabled folks, that are killing civilians, right now have been ramped up for over a year from Lincoln, Nebraska, right? So maybe we try to understand, like, we can take that money and take those people who would be going and making bombs, those Lincolnites who would then be accomplices to murder, and we can then usher them into places like the railroad system, right? We can usher them into places to ensure public safety instead of pushing people into jobs where they are literally involved in the murder of civilians. There is nothing else that bombs do. There is nothing else that they're designed to do except cause destruction and harm and death, right? So perhaps what we can do is, instead of allowing, you know, the Lincoln Manufacturing Council to, you know, bolster General Dynamics, we can send those people, welding jobs, whatever it might be, into things that would help with public safety, especially the railroads, because, like, I don't know if you guys have seen any of those videos of those tracks where they just lift and fall and lift and fall. We are a disaster waiting to happen. And if we're a disaster waiting to happen, why the hell are we doing anything, spending any money on General Dynamics? Why is any of our public funding going towards destruction when it needs to be going towards our safety? Like, there's bus places that don't have shade, don't have benches, and I see, like, we're here talking about railroad safety. Like, there's so many different ways that Lincoln could be kept safe if we decided to take that money and, instead of investing it in death, right, into General Dynamics on Industrial and Superior, instead of allowing a weapons manufacturer to be around our citizens, which is in and of itself inherently dangerous. Being around a place that makes bombs is not a safe place that citizens should be. So perhaps, instead of caring about General Dynamics and what they have to say, what we can do is we can try to push those folks, maybe not push, but, like, give them the opportunity and the incentive, which is what I believe the Lincoln Manufacturing Council is, and what a lot of our programs are, to try to get people into these trade jobs, right? Very noble. But we need to not put them in a place where they decide to go kill people so they can feed their family, right? Why not put them in a place where they can, you know, help rebuild our transportation system instead of destroying somebody else's transportation system, right? Lincoln can do better, and we expect you to do better, right? We want it to be a safe place to live, but having a weapons manufacturer and we're funneling people into those jobs instead of trying to get them into, like, public safety jobs, right? Those are things that we need to focus on, especially on the anniversary of the ramping up of this genocide in Gaza, right? It's been since 1948. But a year since we have seen Lincoln's particular involvement, like, out of proportion, cause so much pain and suffering, not just to those in Gaza, but also to those in Lincoln, right? We should not be building a culture where we send people to do those jobs that kill, and instead we should be sending them to, you know, make our own railroad safe.
Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak on this item regarding the RTSD agreement with the City of Lincoln? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
I'll call item 5C, Comprehensive Plan Amendment 24005, application of White Holdings LLC to amend the Lincoln-Lancaster County 2050 Comprehensive Plan to revise the future land use map on approximately 138.5 acres by changing the designation from urban density residential to industrial and commercial on property generally located at Northwest 27th Street and Purple Heart Highway.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, members of the council. Danae Kalkowski appearing today on behalf of Northwest 27 LLC, which is managed by White Development Company.
Chris or Sony, do you have a tip for focusing?
We're focusing today.
Foggy out there.
There's Brian, there's
Thank you.
I can maybe start. I think you can see it in general. Yeah. I'm not sure which
in the
button.
packet. There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
Woohoo.
All right,
All right,
Sony.
all right.
That's our clerk.
We're in business.
Thank you. All right.
Northwest 27th LLC is requesting a comprehensive plan amendment today to property that we have located up on Northwest 27th Street and Purple Heart Highway. Just kind of for reference, you got Kawasaki Motors there to the south and Highland View neighborhood to the east. The request is really to change the majority of the site outlined right here, from urban residential back to industrial, which is what it had been designated prior to the approval of the 2050 comp plan in November of 2021. And then there's a second component, which is to change our neighboring property that has a bed and breakfast area right there from urban residential to commercial. And so our neighbor is also a joint applicant on this comp plan amendment, signed off for the commercial designation there. This request keeps urban residential, a strip of the urban residential next to our neighbors in the Highland View neighborhood, and designates, as I mentioned, our commercial property, or the neighboring property as commercial. Prior to the comprehensive plan amendment in 2050, this area was shown really for a mix. It changed a couple different times during the 2040 comprehensive plan, but it had always been a mix of commercial and industrial, with probably the most recent amendment in 2019 that really showed everything as industrial except really this eastern portion. So we're really changing back to what it was prior to the 2050 comprehensive plan. And you'll note in the staff report that the planning department indicates that the site was changed from industrial to residential in the 2050 plan due to the comp plan's projected need for residential sites within the 2050 growth areas. I think when we came forward and inquired and wanted to change it back, they took a look and said the city currently has enough areas, other areas without this site designated to support 46 years of growth without this site. So planning department is supporting the return of the area to a commercial and industrial designation. I think our client feels this really is the highest and best use for this property. It gives us the most flexibility for trying to do a mix of industrial and commercial uses out here. So you're likely to ultimately have a mix of zoning types because of the size of the site. We have 130 acres here. It's a large site, would accommodate a major industrial user, or it might accommodate even several smaller users or some mid-size users. I think this site provides a great opportunity for economic growth for our community. It allows the site to be utilized by the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development to attract new users to Lincoln, and or to be utilized for businesses in Lincoln that are looking for a place to grow. This site, as I mentioned, is located directly across the street from Kawasaki Motors, which has I think an I-2 zoning designation. It's adjacent to a major highway with Purple Heart Highway, and has really good access then over to get to the interstate. And then it really just is an opportunity to provide a new industrial center for our community, which, one hasn't been added for a period of time. Prior to Planning Commission, we did send out letters to our neighbors in the Highland View neighborhood to the east, informing them about the comprehensive plan amendment, asking them to call us if they had questions. I did receive 3 calls, I think, before Planning Commission, and we did have, and I think you'll see in your packet, a few letters from neighbors, and also 2 or 3 people showed up at the Planning Commission and testified. So I want to maybe hit on maybe the 2 main things that we heard from the neighbors and sort of a response to them, because we may have some neighbors here today. But primarily, that we heard in some of the letters that there was a reliance on this residential designation from the 2050 comp plan when they bought their homes. And then the second thing really was just a concern that the industrial nature of this development could impact the character of their residential neighbor. So I want to just talk timing so we all have the timing kind of clear in our head. But the 2050 comprehensive plan showed this as residential in November of 2021. It was approved. Prior to that time, the 2040 plan had it as commercial and industrial. When I took a look at when these houses were purchased, primarily 2019, 2020, early 21. So most of the homes in Highland View directly to the east of us would have been purchased while the 2040 comprehensive plan was in place, which would have showed this as industrial. So there shouldn't have been a great reliance on the comp plan designation by those neighbors at that time. And then I think finally, we feel like with this site, there are efforts and opportunities to mitigate how the industrial might impact the residential neighborhood. Probably the first thing is by leaving, the strip of residential designation there, which allows us to at least do two rows of residential development, or a street with houses on both sides. In addition to that, the comp plan calls for a 300-foot buffer between residential and commercial. So I'm just going to show you maybe an example of what that might look like. So just kind of give you a little bit of an example. So if you had the Highland View residential here, first of all, the comp plan designation would allow continued residential development, at least 300 feet there. And then if we were putting industrial uses up against this residential, we'd have to set back at least another 300 feet according to the comp plan standards and what the health department wants to see before we would be able to put any kind of industrial users. And that same 300 feet would apply along the north part of the site, because we've got future residential shown to the north of us too. So besides just having the actual physical separation, we also have a really big grade differential on this property. The residential area sets much higher here than what the property as you go to the west. We have really like a 20-foot fall between the Highland View residential and where you would anticipate you would start any kind of industrial use down here. So we also believe that that grade differential will really mitigate the impact that this industrial area could have on the residential. I think for this site to move forward, as you're aware, this is a comp plan amendment for just the very first stage. Allows us to maybe start marketing and seeing what kind of users might be interested in being located here. We need to come back with zoning, with the annexation, most likely a planned unit development that's going to show some more, at least some conceptual site plan details. And we'll have a lot of opportunity at that time to have further discussion through public hearings at Planning Commission and City Council about the types of uses that are proposed to go here and about the buffering that'll be shown to those uses. So we think there's adequate opportunity in the future to even continue to make sure that there's adequate buffering and separation and mitigation of impacts to the residential neighbors. So I think in conclusion, we're asking you to really return to the industrial designation on this property, allowing the most flexibility for obtaining the highest and best use for our community. This allows us, again, multiple zoning and multiple uses, further the comp plan goals of economic development, and I think there are ample opportunities to provide the buffering needed from our adjacent residential neighbors. Staff has recommended approval of the change. Planning Commission also recommended approval, and so we're asking for your approval today. and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions? We'll start with Councilman Weber, then we'll go to Councilman Duden.
Thank you, Chair Washington, and thank you, Danae, for coming down. So you mentioned at the end, talking about the economic development component of this, you'd mentioned LPED both in the Planning Commission meeting and then also today. I'm just curious of what kind of collaboration there has been, if any, with the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development on this site location.
There's been conversations between our client. I think both we've reached out to them, they've reached out to us when they've had inquiries from companies looking for sites, asking permission to go ahead and put this site out there as a potential for other companies who are looking for sites to locate in Lincoln. So I do know it's been sent out at least 2 or 3 times by LPED for potential users, and obviously our client would support that because we want to continue to be a good partner in that and open it up to both local and businesses that might be coming in from out of town.
I appreciate that. When you say LPED has sent it out, what do you mean in that?
I think they
context?
get inquiries for information about potential sites. So they may have a company that's saying, you know, what might you have available in your community for somebody who needs 40-acre site that's I-1 zoned and has these certain parameters that need to be met. And they put together a packet of things across our city that might potentially meet those qualifications. And then I think if there's further interest, you know, it comes back. But it's generally, I think, general request for information up front of sites that might meet certain needs.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And then I want to talk about the proposed strip of residential development. Is that in a different part of this comp plan? I guess or the amendment? I guess where does the residential zoning end and where does the industrial zoning begin with this amendment to the comprehensive plan?
We're not changing any zone with
Today,
this
yep.
today with this comprehensive plan amendment. So as you know, the comprehensive plan is the general guide, right, which talks to us about what might be appropriate in these areas. And then when you come back with the zoning, we need to show you some more specifics as to what we're trying to do and where specifically we're asking for the zoning and whether, you know, there needs to be some buffering or some separation from other uses. So right now, the strip that's left in the comp plan for urban residential is probably 300 plus feet wide, right? Which would allow a double row of lots in there. We haven't came forward yet with that plan or asked for specific zoning. The anticipation is that it would probably continue to be R3 zoning or the same zoning as the property to the east, right? And then depending upon the users, this could end up being I-1, it could be an H zone. So it could really allow a myriad of uses in this area, and that's kind of the beauty of the comp plan amendment to allow us to determine what sort of users want to be in this area. And then depending upon what zoning we would ask for and the types of uses that would be allowed in that zoning, you'd have additional buffering requirements due to that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
I've got kind of a combination of questions for you and David Carey
Okay.
on this project. So I wonder, Dave, if you could come up front at the same time. I don't know if this conversation's come up, but it seems like that's going to put a lot more pressure on traffic trying to enter Purple Heart Highway. And I was wondering if there's any discussion about a service road parallel to the Purple Heart Highway that takes it to 27th Street, that sort of thing, because I can see this development putting a lot more pressure on this intersection at North, whatever that is. Doesn't really say, but right there.
Northwest 27th Street?
There.
I could perhaps start kind of talking about what the plan says, and then Danae, maybe, I know they've given some thought to how might a road network work, but David Carey, 555 South 10th Street, Director of the Planning Department. The comprehensive plan and our long-range transportation plan doesn't specifically envision a frontage road or any type of service road at this location. What I would say is that, you know, the fact that Northwest 27th Street is there, that road ultimately would be improved so that it would be available for use for any development that happened out there. So it's got basically the, excuse me, the structure out there that any undeveloped land area would have to work with.
And will these, Danae, will this developed area connect with your area? Will it be a road?
Yep, let me maybe show you just conceptual. So at this stage, all of these questions obviously get addressed as we move forward,
okay.
right?
Well, I might be premature.
You're a little bit ahead of us, Tom, because when we come in for our annexation and our zoning, we have to address roads, water, sewer, sanitary sewer, right? And so the city's made it very clear, no additional access points to Purple Heart Highway.
Yeah.
So our traffic does have to funnel over to Northwest 27th Street, which I think is a minor arterial. So it's intended to be a big street and carry traffic to another highway, which is intended to be a big street and carry a lot of traffic. So it is the intention that most of the industrial traffic would funnel over to Northwest 27th Street and go south, right? We are required, however, to make connections to the neighborhood to the east. So if somebody from the neighborhood to the east wanted to come over and get on Northwest 27th Street to get out, because they have limited access to Purple Heart Highway from that neighborhood, that would be available, right? I think we've talked about multiple connections.
No traffic signal there either, so.
No, not today,
Right.
right? But that is something you'll see more of when we come in with annexation agreement and how we're going to master plan traffic and road connectivity.
Sorry for being early.
Nope.
Are there any other questions from other counselors? Then I've got a question. Would you, either one of you, would you mind describing a little bit more about the topography? I know, Ms. Kakowski, you had said that there was a 20-foot difference between top of the hill back into the existing residential development and then the very bottom of the site. And I was just wondering if either one of you had a topographic map and you could sort of show where that drop-off was. And then I'd like someone to describe buffer in a little bit more clarity.
Okay. I'll talk a little bit. I didn't bring a topographical map.
Okay.
But on one of these sketches that the clients had put together, they did put the elevation here. We're at 1260 here with the Highland View residential. Okay. I think as we got through our residential neighborhood, that we were dropping about another 10 feet. And then their intention would be to grade, probably to make that differential even more pronounced, which would get you down to the 1240. It's not dissimilar, Councilman Washington, to what they're doing out in East Lincoln, on the East Dominion Estates. We did the same type of a deal where we had a strip of residential that we continued a townhome use, and then the grade dropped pretty significantly, and they took advantage of that grade drop and dropped the site then for area that'll be more highway commercial uses there. So this is sort of the same sort of thing. You keep the residential up higher and then you're going to drop these uses down. But I think our grade differential is really 20 feet is what they're looking at from what I've seen on the elevations.
And I can add, zooming out from that, going from east to west across the entirety of this property, from where the existing residential units are to basically Northwest 27th Street, there's approximately an 80-foot difference going down. So structures and activity that's happening over on the western side of this would be quite a bit lower than the existing neighborhood area.
Okay. So any drainage from the industrial activities is going to drain away from the residential to the east?
To the west.
To the west. Yeah, it'll drain away from.
It'll
right.
drain away from it. It'll drain west. Okay. And then when you were describing the buffer, the 300-foot buffer between residential and industrial, and then you noted that there'd have to be a 300-foot buffer along the north edge of the property where is future residential planned. Can you describe what that buffer is? Is it just a distance? Is there landscaping? What's in that buffer?
I'll describe, and then David can probably correct me, but really the buffer is from the industrial buildings. They don't want industrial buildings within, which could contain chemicals that are dangerous or et cetera, within 300 feet of any residential, really property line for the residential.
Okay.
So there could potentially be some parking. There could be screening or landscaping within that 300 feet area. For example, the property to the north, for that 300-foot separation, we could count the road as part of that distance, right? And so if that's, let's say we have 100 feet of right-of-way for the road, then we need to put the building 200 feet south on ours. And here, even conceptually, we have open space. We put a drainage detention cell up there. So it could be green space, or it could be the setback plus some parking. It just won't be the building.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that helps to have a picture of that. And then can you, I think this is for you, Director Carey, can you talk a little bit about the types of uses that would be allowed under industrial?
Well, again, it gets back into what exact zoning we're talking about. So there's a pretty wide range between I-1 and I-3.
Mm-hmm.
I-3 is much more of what is considered light industrial, has much less of the chemicals that Danae referred to as being a possibility in I-1. So there's a very wide range, but the type of employment centers that, that we think of when it comes to this type of a potential development probably wouldn't necessarily be the heaviest of versions of I-1, but I can't speak to what might happen there, and we don't even know exactly which I zoning it would be in the future. But it could be at this point, we'd have to consider a wide range of uses.
Okay, and the industrial area could also include highway zoning?
Sure, I think H zoning, there's a role for that in a situation like this. We just don't know what the exact project is.
All right.
I would also note, just to go back to the buffering, there are other uses that could happen, not just parking and landscape. You could have some commercial uses in there that sometimes that creates a buffer from the industrial. So there's a wide range of options in there.
All right. Yeah.
True, and I don't want to say that there's always going to be the 300 feet, because if you came in with an H zone, that wouldn't necessarily require us to set the buildings back 300 feet. You'd put your typical, setback from residential that's required in the H zone, and then your use. So I'm just suggesting from industrial, we'd have that 300 feet.
Yeah, I'm just looking for, I think, a greater picture for folks who are interested in this and wanting to have a better understanding for what it means. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Beth. All right. Councilman Weber.
Thank you, Chair Washington. Director Carey, while I have you up here, I have a few questions for you. What I really want to get at is how we got to where we're at right now, right? So the ask is amending the comprehensive plan, which essentially sets the stage then for future rezoning. We're being asked to amend the comprehensive plan to change this area back to industrial like it was in the 2040 plan, because now in the 2050 comprehensive plan, it's zoned as residential. What led the planning department to change the zoning in the first place from industrial to residential, and what has changed since then?
So there were conversations when we did the plan approval for the 2050 plan going from the 2040 plan. A major part of that discussion and that process is to talk about 10 more years of growth, making sure we have enough land available for a lot of focus on residential, because that's the largest physical footprint of land that we have to account for. And so essentially when this idea came back to bring it back to what it was in the 2040 plan for this land area, the future land use, we asked our staff to kind of crunch the numbers a little bit to make sure that if it did go back to the commercial/industrial, that we had enough space and land for residential growth to meet the demands of growth in the future out to 2050. We were able to confirm that. I think what the way to think about this is that we had quite a bit of slack in the plan for residential growth, and by removing this back out of the growth plan, it does not hurt our ability to meet demands of growth. And also keeping in mind that we update that plan every 5 years, so there's opportunities to do other things as well along the way.
So when you say that there was enough space, that planning was able to confirm that there was enough space for residential development, how is that determination made, and where is that space? Is that space in Northwest Lincoln? Is that space in just the city of Lincoln? Can you speak
Sure.
a little bit to that?
So that determination is made by, we have some average densities that we experience for edge development, for the more suburban development. And those assumptions go into our growth numbers for how much population and how many persons per household. So we know how much land that demands. And so we kind of start with that as being the minimum. And then we always want to build in at least a 10-year buffer of land so that we aren't too tight on land availability. So that's kind of how we get to that number. And then the location of all that land is distributed in different directions. So yes, there is some in Northwest Lincoln, there's some in Northeast Lincoln, there's some in Southeast Lincoln, and some in Southwest Lincoln and future Lincoln.
Yep.
And then keep in mind that we have quite a bit, about 25% of that growth is expected to be inside the existing city for infill. So that's how we kind of run the number to make sure that physically we're planning for enough land to meet those demands of growth.
And so how does this, how would changing this or amending this comprehensive plan to change this area back to industrial, how would that impact residential growth in Northwest Lincoln, which is one of the faster growing parts of the city, if I'm not mistaken?
So effectively what it means, it takes a piece of what became residential and now is being asked to go back to industrial. If that change were to happen ultimately, obviously that chunk of land is not available for residential future growth. What that means effectively is probably about a few hundred residences that are not available for growth in that location of Northwest Lincoln. I will note that a lot of the other growth that is still planned in Northwest Lincoln is down along Northwest 48th Street, kind of as well as north of this site in this area. So that we fully expect those areas to still grow. I will also take the opportunity just to note that while all areas of our city are growing, which is a good thing, we have the vast majority of the growth is happening in Southeast and South Lincoln, both today and in the future. So that's where we kind of get into kind of the big picture of where's the growth going, how much capacity do we have. So we have a lot of land that we currently are planning to grow into and can even have further growth into the future. So part of the answer is I'm confident that we have that planned out.
I appreciate that. And then you just spoke a little bit about even north of this location, anticipating growth in residential development. How does amending the comprehensive plan, this area industrial, how would that potentially impact future residential development to the north, right? So when we zone a certain area industrial, does that impact surrounding area being zoned as residential?
Well, I think Danae spoke to kind of what would be done or is already being thought about, is that buffer off of the road to the north would still, we'd effectively still have a 300-foot buffer from industrial uses. So that's, in a nutshell, kind of what the difference will be.
Okay.
So really would not have an impact on that area that could grow as residential to the north. I guess that's another area that is a little bit easier to deal with because it's not existing either yet. So that would be another consideration there.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Director.
All right. Councilman Beckius, did you have a question?
Not a question. I just wanted to comment, Danae, thank you. I know that we're just talking about a comprehensive plan amendment at this point in time, and I think that some of the questions are a little forward-thinking, but I do appreciate you thinking, I do appreciate you and your client showing us the buffer area, because that's so important to residential neighbors and has been a long-standing practice in the city of Lincoln to make sure that when we are potentially looking at amending land use types, that we're also putting similar land use types adjacent to each other. So R3 against R3, as is shown on the very preliminary comp plan amendment, which traditionally doesn't show anything like that. So I do appreciate you proactively going down that road so that neighbors can understand and see a visual that they will have residential abutting themselves as well.
I appreciate that. And we will have additional meetings with the neighbors as we start to put some of those details together so they can see. On this one, we sent out a letter because it's really just kind of the general comp plan. But we will meet with the neighborhood and the neighbors that are adjacent to the site, when we get ready to come in with the zoning and the annexation.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any other discussions or questions, comments from counselors? All right, thank you very much. Ms. Kukowski will bring you back for rebuttal if there's a need for that. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this item, either in support or in opposition of this comprehensive plan amendment? Seeing no one coming forward, Madam Clerk, we can move to voting.
We still have items on.
Oh, I'm so
public
sorry, I
hearing.
forgot. We have that long list. So
I'll
if
call-
no one wants to come forward to speak on this item, then we'll move to the next item.
I'll call items 5D through 5U together. Items 5D through 5U, approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Village of Adams Rural Fire District, Bennett Rural Fire District, Ceresco Rural Fire District, Village of Claytonia, Cortland Rural Fire District, Village of Douglas, Elmwood Rural Fire District, Firth Rural Fire District, Village of Greenwood, Hallam Rural Fire District, Hickman Rural Fire District, Malcolm Rural Fire District, Village of Palmyra, Raymond Rural Fire, Southeast Rural Fire District, Southwest Rural Fire District, Valparaiso Rural Fire District, and City of Waverly for Advanced Life Support Emergency Service for terms from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025.
Well, good afternoon.
Welcome, Chief.
My word.
I'm Dave Engler, 1801 Q Street Fire Chief, and this is Battalion Chief Jamie Poshpishol, who is in charge of our EMS division. And we're here today to talk about 5D through 5U. They're interlocal agreements with numerous rural fire and rescue agencies outside of the city of Lincoln. These agreements have been in place since about 2009, so this is kind of something we do every year. And they exist so we can provide advanced life support to those agencies when needed. Most of those agencies are primarily basic life support, and we provide the paramedic services when the situation arises that they need advanced care. So through these interlocal agreements, when they call, we respond, and that's the relationship we've had out in the county for a long time. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Do counselors have questions or comments? All right, let's start with you, Councilman Duden.
Does that produce revenue for Lincoln when these towns from outside the jurisdiction type of thing enter into this type of an agreement?
Yes, it does. And do you want to just,
Sure.
do you want to?
Yeah, these rural districts are billed each time they request our services. So we don't necessarily have to arrive on scene, but if we are requested and we go to the county, then they are billed for each individual incident.
I think if I was sitting at home, I'd kind of wonder about that. So you're not going to have to add additional gas tanks or anything like that to the rig so they can make it out there and back.
No, and again, you know, we do operate our EMS service on an enterprise fund,
Yep.
so it's not tax general fund supported, and that's why it's important when we do get called out to the county that we do have a funding mechanism to make sure that we are made
Costs are
whole.
covered.
Yeah, but one of the things we've worked diligently with the county over the last several years, and we've really reduced the calls to where it is absolutely where they need advanced life support. They are all capable of transporting patients now, so really we're just there for that advanced life support piece. That keeps our units in the city more often.
All right. Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Well, I thank you for bringing all of these before us. I know that our relationships with our neighboring communities with fire and rescue is critically important, and I'm glad that we're doing what we can to support them.
You guys do great work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. We are now open for public comment on this. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak on either 5D through 5U on one of any of these items, please come forward now.
Hello, my name is Anastasia Fenner. I'm going to waive my address, of course. Obviously, I want to see partnership and community expanding for health and safety, especially for fire resources. What I can't help but see is that we are only willing to be kind to our neighbors depending on how far away they are. And that perhaps what we should also do within, making sure that our neighbors have, advanced safety capacities. Maybe what we should also do is not go and bomb another country. Maybe Lincoln, Nebraska could be better to their neighbors when they don't, have a weapons manufacturer, General Dynamics, in our city that is, killing people in Palestine, in Gaza, in Lebanon, with bombs that are made here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I cannot help but notice the extraordinary difference between saying yes, because I want us to support those folks in those towns that are around us, because I myself am from a small town, and we need that help from our neighbors. And as someone who is from a small town who has needed other sources from bigger cities and such, it's great. But what's not great is that, in the same breath, we're also allowing Lincoln, Nebraska to go ahead and bomb, multiple sovereign countries, right? General Dynamics here in Lincoln, Nebraska, an industrial in Superior, makes bombs that kill children. And, it's all well and great that we want to help our neighbors, but what about the neighbors that we don't see? But we have seen them suffer from us. So I'm not exactly sure what is even going on here, right? Because I want, those pals in Ceresco to be able to have that additional support when they need it, right? But I also want Lincoln to provide support by just simply not killing people, by simply not allowing our tax dollars to go and, murder innocent people who are our neighbors in this world, right? There are Palestinians here in Lincoln that are refugees who are unable to go home, specifically because of the actions taken by Lincoln, Nebraska. Because Lincolnites do make bombs and they do kill people. They completely decimate the exact same kind of firefighters that we're allegedly here to support, allegedly here to give support to in those communities that are near us. But why are we also a city that's bombing the exact same kind of people that we're trying to allegedly say that we're a part of? Are we going to actually help people, right? It's great to help our neighbors, but we have to allow that to go beyond just Ceresco, just the county. We have to understand that our actions have international consequences, right? And that that you have the power to stifle this kind of harm. You have the power to do good. Here we are talking about wanting to uplift people who aren't necessarily in Lincoln, right? Maybe within our county, right? We want to uplift these folks. We want to ensure that they're not going to just die on the side of the road, right? What about ensuring that we're not killing people on the sides of their roads elsewhere? Yet again, Lincoln could totally divest from the likes of General Dynamics, who makes 2,000-pound bombs that kill kids, that kill people like us every day, have been doing for over a year. The genocide did not just happen on October 7th. It has been going on since 1948 and has been ramped up since October 7th. Yeah, we can help people. It's great. I want to help our neighbors, but I want to help everyone. And we can do that by simply not pulling the trigger. We can do so by not manufacturing the bombs. We can be a place where people call for help, not a place where people call for death, right? Because that's what General Dynamics does. They breathe death. Those bombs are only designed to kill, are only designed to do destruction. Why are we supporting these firefighters who are supposed to be putting out the fires that we cause, right? Like, we'll support firefighters here, but we'll bomb the firefighters in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Beirut, right, in Syria.
Is there anyone here to speak on this item, either in support or in opposition? Madam Clerk.
We can now vote on these items. Item 5A is approving the selection of a contractor pursuant to the bids to be opened on October 3rd, 2024, and authorizing the execution of the construction contract between the City of Lincoln and the Nebraska Department of Transportation for the use of federal transportation program funds for design and construction engineering services for the 56th Street and Spruce Street to Van Dorn Street rehab project, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
I will second.
Second, Carlson. Councilman Duden, do you have a motion to delay?
Yes, I have a motion to delay that 3 weeks to October 28th and to continue public hearing on the same matter.
Okay.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion on the amendment, the motion to delay for 3 weeks? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, let's vote on the motion to delay by 3 weeks with public hearing to continue.
Weber?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
And now the main motion. Oh, no, we don't have a main motion. We're going to delay that main motion for 3 weeks. Pardon me. Let's move on to the next item.
Item 5B is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln and the City of Lincoln Lancaster County Railroad Transportation Safety District for the construction, repair, maintenance, removal, and/or replacement of railroad crossing and adjacent pedestrian sidewalks, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion?
The only comments that I'll make on it is, when this passed through the RTSD, there's 3 council members on there. The one thing that I want to mention that I think Roger threw in his public comments also was that even though this is going on for 5 years, either the RTSD or the city may voluntarily terminate the proposed master interlocal agreement upon 60 days notice. So even though it'll be extended for 5 years, our hands aren't tied for 5 years for, if we need to change or look at it for whatever reason. So I just want to make clear that, we're not handcuffing ourselves for 5 years.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Any other comments or discussion on this? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Weber?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5C is Comprehensive Plan Amendment 24005, application of White Holdings LLC to amend the Lincoln Lancaster County 2050 Comprehensive Plan to revise the future land use map on approximately 138.5 acres by changing the designation from urban density residential to industrial and commercial on property generally located at Northwest 27th Street and Purple Heart Highway, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Oh my gosh, Councilman Weber, I didn't mean to elevate you.
Nope.
Pardon me.
Nope. Thank you, Chair Washington. I think it's important that we discuss what we're voting on here today, and that's an amendment to the comprehensive plan. An amendment to the comprehensive plan sets the stage for when rezoning applications come before us. Typically, compatibility leads to city approval. If it's compatible with the comprehensive plan, it typically will get approval from the planning department, the planning commission, and the city council. And so while there can be this notion that there are, forward-thinking questions, I think that Northwest Lincoln deserves forward-thinking leadership. And I think that, discussing the impacts of the decision we make in regards to the comprehensive plan and how that's going to affect residents of a certain area, those are important questions to ask. And deep down, I think about what's in the best interest of Northwest Lincoln and in this area. And I genuinely do believe that that is residential development. And, it's difficult for me to say that. I have a great deal of respect for the applicant and Ms. Kakowski. I really enjoyed getting to talk to some proponents of it today. But I genuinely believe in my gut that this area is better for Northwest Lincoln if it remains zoned for residential use. And that is why I will be voting no on amending this comprehensive plan, because I believe it's the right thing to do for Northwest Lincoln. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just want to,
Bowers?
yeah, I just want to say, I think, Brody, your questions that you asked today were really on point and were really smart. You've been on the council for a little over a year, but the questions that you asked, I think, really show a deep understanding of how the process works. And I think that you're right. I think sometimes, things kind of get pushed forward a little bit at a time, and then the next thing you know, we're already down a mountain. And so I appreciate the questions that you asked and you brought up, because it makes, I think it puts the council more on notice and more aware as things come up. So thank you for advocating for your district and for letting folks get involved before we get to a point where things are too late.
I appreciate that.
All right. Anyone else?
I'll just make a quick comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Washington. I think both points of view are important to listen to. And at the same time, we have a process here. People could come in and testify and complain or tell us what they would like to see in that specific area. So I would urge people that live in that area to come forward and testify as we listen to the different applications that are possible for that area. Because I think that helps guide all of us up here sitting up front when we vote. So I think that's part of the process as well.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to take a moment and give my comments on this. I'm a planner by training, by background, by my career, and so I really appreciate the amount of work that goes into comprehensive planning for our community. And I did notice a change in the comp plan from 2040 to 2050, and a number of questions I asked before I got here today had to do with what was precipitating the change from 2040 to 2050, and why are we looking at going back to where we were at the 2040 comprehensive plan. I appreciate Director Carey's letting us know that there was an interest in making certain we had land for housing, and urban density housing was a primary focus. But then also recognizing that there are enough lots right now, if we go back to industrial in this area, to keep us in lots for the next 46 years. So I'm glad that there's that kind of calculation going on. I also know that economic development in our community is critically important. And as we grow our community and the number of residents, we need to grow the ability for workforce to grow as well. And so I am very cognizant of the fact that zoning something for commercial and industrial use, whether it's high industrial or medium or low industrial, is a critical factor in how our community grows. And with residential to one side or two sides, ag on another side, and industrial across the street, we have an area in Northwest Lincoln that is ripe for some flexibility in looking at how we can add additional housing and how we can also add light industrial into the area. I will be voting in favor of this comp plan amendment, but I'll be watching this very, very carefully, because I want to see that good industrial and commercial go in that is compatible and does not provide any kind of toxicity to the neighbors. I think that's really important, but I also want to be aware that we are in a prime area for industrial as well, next to the highway and directly adjacent to Kawasaki. Madam Clerk.
Weber,
No.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
No.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-2. I'll call item 5D, approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Village of Adams Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Village of Adams Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025, introduced by Duden.
Mr. Duden.
Introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5E is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Bennett Rural Fire District for the Advanced Life Support Emergency Service to the Bennett Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 24 through August 31st of 2025. Introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5F, approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Ceresco Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Ceresco Rural Fire Department for a term from September 1st, 24 through August 31st of 25, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Discussion? Please call the vote.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5G is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Village of Claytonia for advanced life support emergency service to the Village of Claytonia for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5H is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Cortland Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Cortland Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2025, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5I is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Village of Douglas for advanced life support emergency service to the Village of Douglas for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5J, approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Elmwood Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Elmwood Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5K is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Firth Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Firth Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
Beckius,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5L is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Village of Greenwood for advanced life support emergency service to the Village of Greenwood for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
Bowers,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5M is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Hallam Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to Hallam Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5N, approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Hickman Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Hickman Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
I will second.
Carlson, second. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
Beckius,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5O is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Malcolm Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Malcolm Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025. Introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Discussion. Madam Clerk.
Carlson,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5P is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Village of Palmyra for advanced life support emergency service to the Village of Palmyra for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025. Introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Discussion. Madam Clerk.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5Q is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Raymond Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Raymond Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025. Introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Beckius,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5R, approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Southeast Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Southeast Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 25. Introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Discussion. Madam Clerk.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Almost there. Okay, 5S, approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Southwest Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Southwest Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025. Introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Discussion. Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5T is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the Valparaiso Rural Fire District for advanced life support emergency service to the Valparaiso Rural Fire District for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025. Introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second?
Carlson, second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5U is approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Fire and Rescue and the City of Waverly for advanced life support emergency service to the City of Waverly for a term from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st of 2025. Introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Thank you, counselors. Thank you, Chief Engler. All right, Madam Clerk, let's move to public hearing, ordinances, second reading, and related resolutions.
I'll call items 6A and B together. Item 6A and B is approving the labor contract between the City of Lincoln and the Amalgamated Transit Union Local Number 1293 for a term effective August 15th, 2024 through August 31st of 2027, and amending the pay schedule for a certain employee group by adjusting the schedules of annual, monthly, biweekly, and hourly pay range equivalents for employees of the City of Lincoln whose classifications are assigned to pay ranges prefixed by B.
Good afternoon.
How are you guys? Barb McIntyre, Human Resources Director, 555 South 10th. And this is our union contract with the Amalgamated Transit Union. It is a 3-year contract. We have agreed to a 3% wage increase for this year, 2024, 2025, and 2026. We've also made some adjustments to their longevity pay that they received to reflect what we had in our comparability data and make sure we were as we always do, looking across all of our comparable cities and staying in alignment with what we see in those contracts so we can make sure we're ensuring a fair wage for our employees. Other big changes in this is we have started adding into our contracts the bilingual pay for people who use that in the course of their duties so they can get that extra $100 a month when they use that language skills in the course of doing business for the city on behalf of the city. So that's in this contract. We've reflected some greater flexibility. We thought that was really important for the employees on scheduling vacation. Before they wouldn't be able to schedule, they did vacation block bidding, and there was no ability to schedule a day of vacation here or there throughout the year as something might come up. And we recognize that just doesn't work very well for our workforce today. So we added in some greater vacation scheduling throughout the course of the year and did a few things to try to work on the amount of mandatory overtime we have. This is our bus drivers, so that just occurs, but that's another big piece we worked on in this contract. So the union did vote yes, so now we have it in front of you. Do you have any specific questions?
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on the Amalgamated Transit Union contract or the pay schedule amendments for StarTran? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll move on, Madam Clerk.
Item 6C is Comprehensive Plan Conformance 24017, declaring an area measuring approximately 415 square feet of city-owned property generally located at 205 South 10th Street as surplus.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, City Council. Ernie Castillo, Urban Development Department, 555 South 10th Street, Suite 205. This afternoon, we're asking for surplus of this little piece of property highlighted in blue right off the alley. Just for a little context, M Street to the south, N Street to the north, 10th Street, and 9th Street. We did a little research when getting this thing together and see that the city bought it in 1961. We didn't really see why or how that little piece was purchased. We speculated a little bit. Was it done for possibly the police station at the time and some movement of vehicles? But anyway, our intent is to sell the little piece to the developer here to the north. That will become part of their overall development site. We follow the normal surplus process. Michelle Backmeyer sends a memo out to all public agencies asking for a comment or any issues that any public agency may have. We had no comments or opposition, and our intention is to negotiate the sales price as part of the redevelopment agreement, which will be back in front of you probably within the month. So this is that multi-family housing, affordable housing project. So you can see kind of LES is going to put switchgear and transformer on the site. So I think it was September 18th, Planning Commission approved it on the consent agenda, and staff recommendation is approval. So any questions I can answer?
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Castillo.
You bet.
Are there any questions for this item? Mr. Castillo? Mr. Duden.
Quick comment, because I think you said that was purchased in 61.
61 is what we found, yes.
Probably to accommodate the gas company when they used to be in that building before the police department was in that building.
Okay.
So that their trucks and stuff could make that.
That little movement,
Yeah, in the
out
alley
of the building, so.
It wouldn't have been from LPD, that's for sure. So.
Okay, yeah, and we couldn't
We moved
find
in
out
like
when
81
LPD.
too, I think, is when we
Okay.
acquired it.
Well, thank you for that historical context.
Yes. Well, now we know in urban development too, so.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Are there any other comments about this item? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on the item of city surplus property of 415 square feet? Seeing no one, we will move on. Madam Clerk, where are we?
We're section 7. Resolutions first readings are items 7A through 7C. Section 8 is our pending list, are items 8A through 8H.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I would make a motion for adjournment.
I will accept that.
I
Is there a
second
second? Tom Duden, second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Duden,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Beckius. Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, we're adjourned.